We have an amazing group up here. And maybe I'll let folks just introduce themselves for a minute and go down the chain. And my name's Ann Frisbee. I'm a SVP of Global Brand and Programmatic at InMobi. InMobi focuses on the in-app side of the mobile space. And a lot of it is around video, mainly full-screen interstitials, and a lot of programmatic buying of those.
I'm Michael Tuminello, VP of Solutions and Partnerships at Innovid, and we're managing video for agencies and advertisers across all platforms and channels.
Chris Evans, VP of Media at R&R Partners. We're a 325-person independent agency based in Las Vegas.
And Scott Lenzer, VP of Media at iCrossing.
Oh my God, amazing group. So you have a video ad server, 2 large independent full-service agencies, and then a supply-side platform on the mobile side. So it should be good discussion. So I'll kick things off, guys. And we'll start, as Scott likes to say, at the 30,000-foot level and kind of work down to the 3-foot level. I like the 3-foot level. So, but I think the first question is just, TV, audiences on TV and consumption of video content on television has been declining. Yet I think you saw kind of mixed signals from brands, some investing more in TV and some investing more in digital. But from a consumer perspective, obviously things aren't going to change, right? Digital media consumption is skyrocketing and continuing to grow. And all of that growth basically is on mobile devices. So 70% now of digital media consumption is on the mobile side, and we're seeing more and more opportunities for video advertising on mobile. So love to get top-level perspectives from you guys around mobile video in terms of whatever you want to share that you think is kind of the big picture from your perspective.
Sure, I guess I can start.
Sure.
We're like silent duel here. We're trying to figure out who's talking.
You roll.
So I think, so on the TV side, first off, I think we see a lot of shifting to digital. TV still exists. We see tons of OTT, but we absolutely have seen mobile surpass desktop as the total number of impressions that we serve, and we serve roughly a third of each, but OTT's lower and mobile's higher. Clearly, especially in some of the geographic places that you operate, like China and India, emerging markets, you see mobile with an even larger, massively larger shift of not just of mobile, but also of mobile programmatic, something like 90% in parts of Asia. So I think clearly it's a huge trend.
Want to take it?
Sure. We do our best to remain video agnostic and just really kind of approach it from an overall video space. I don't really care where you're watching it. If you're watching So You Think You Can Dance live, on a TV versus on an app, it doesn't really matter. It's really kind of focusing on where that audience is at, regardless of platform. That said, we have been shifting a lot more video weight, which we do a ton of, to mobile, just as the consumption has grown, and really just digging into who your client's audience is and where they're consuming media and being there.
And I think from standpoint, and the reason I'm blurry is not just because of Bourbon Street, but it's also planning for 2018.
Yeah.
And the reality is that I think that for video, I think 2018 is a huge year for video and mobile and digital. I would argue that the last 2 years have really been sort of figuring it out, and there's learnings, both positive and negative. So I think that as we really look at the media plans, there's so much more opportunity in 2018 that we foresee, but now it's about doing it right. So it's not just doing it with TV metrics or something else, but actually saying, is there business value to this? Are we selling more widgets? Are we capturing more leads? Are we making an impact in purchase behavior? Whatever that is, I think that 2018 for us in the agency is going to be very pivotal to make sure we do that correctly.
Oh, interesting. So this is a perfect segue, Scott, to what I would term has been kind of the year of questions, right? I think the industry has, for the last few years, I think, struggled on trust between the buyers and the publishers. I think especially in light of YouTube Breitbart issues and Facebook metric issues, and of course, probably $100 billion being spent on fraudulent traffic.
Yeah.
That it has been a lot of your questions and understanding. What do you think are some of the things that publishers or media partner platforms like InMobi can do to help provide more transparency? Or is it buy side that should do something? Like,
Yeah.
what do we need as a next step to really build more trust,
Yeah.
provide more transparency?
So, I think, as I sit here today, the reality is that if you really look at most agencies, it's very synonymous with the last presenter's presentation. Your media planner is 25 to 28 years old, ADD, and confused, right? So, and throw in mobile and video and apps, and that confusion only just continues to go. So they're all afraid of getting yelled at by the clients or anybody. So what happens is they need a tremendous amount of trust and hand-holding to make sure that they're not going to get yelled at. But number two is they really need to, I think, plan this correctly and not just, frankly, half-ass it. If they're going to half-ass it, you might as well just dump it in Facebook as like the one-stop shop for that, right? So I really think that for partners, it's really an opportunity to lead. I think that the assumption that the agencies are going to lead some of these newfound opportunities is actually a little misguided. Okay. And I think that it's an opportunity for all new innovative platforms, especially with what you guys are doing. It's an opportunity to say, these are the best practices to do it. And really is have that candid conversations just like before to make sure you can also lead and be a partner with the agencies, because I think there's just so much confusion. And as a result, that actually leads to more challenges.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's almost 2018 and we're still having conversations about transparency and trust within this space is kind of ridiculous. I think from an agency side, we owe it to our clients and to each other to really push on the publisher side to be 100% transparent in everything that we do. I mean, if you think back 10 years ago, you were buying an ad network and they'd say, well, here's our 10 main sites, but we're not going to show you the other 5,000.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll buy it. I mean, it was just, it finally got to the point where, no, we have to see what's going on. I think it's moving in that direction. It's not moving nearly fast enough.
Correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I totally agree. I think that's the role of the agency is really to push for more and more transparency, and I think you guys honestly can't do enough. I mean, it's amazing to have the head of P&G stand up and insist on transparency. So clearly it's a role for advertisers too to insist on it. We're media agnostic. We're sitting up here with a media partner because what we want to do is try to get real scale for things like transparency, things like interactive, and so we're working, and viewability and verification in mobile, and so we're working with specific media partners who are early adopters of things like the Open Measurement SDK, which is going to bring IAS and DV and Moat basically into the in-app world to make sure that we are getting that extra level of transparency. And so, we find ourselves hopefully playing that role for agencies and advertisers and trying to, fight the good fight, work on standards, work with individual publishers to make the ecosystem better, and then hopefully scale it across the entire ecosystem.
Well, so that's a great next question for you, which is you're driving a whole bunch of things on video standards as a video ad server to kind of help the industry. How do you see that changing on the mobile side in terms of standards, and particularly on the in-app side, which obviously has needed a lot of changes, I feel like?
Yeah, I mean, so I completely agree that 2018 in a lot of ways is shaping up to be a great year for mobile video in particular, because we are seeing, and I think this flew under the radar for a lot of people, but we are seeing IAS and Moat get behind an open standard to allow for verification with vast inventory, not necessarily requiring VPaid, which is kind of a big deal because vast already has scale. And we're starting to see, I think, honestly, we're starting to see some of the walls break down, and you've got Facebook, which has its proprietary formats, and Google, which has maybe some proprietary formats, and then you've got the entire open ecosystem where they're individual network partners with their own formats, and I think they're not going to want to maintain that indefinitely. And so, you know, what companies like InMobi are doing are saying, like, let's identify a few formats that can really scale, and let's put our weight behind them. And we're trying to find these other, or we are finding, we're working with some other people as well, to take those formats and really scale them, make sure that everything that agencies and advertisers need is in place. And then they can still act as innovators and develop new stuff, but then at that point, you know, we have to balance innovation and scale. I was just listening to, I guess, somebody at Digitas say that the other day, and I think, you know, you guys should work on your really cool stuff, and then once we've all decided it's really cool, you have to run it everywhere, so you guys don't have to look in 55 different dashboards to see the reporting on it.
And what's your take of where viewability is in mobile? Are you able to run it on a lot of inventory? Where are we in this journey?
Early, I mean, we certainly look at it. We as an agency have taken a stronger stance on viewability compared to the IAB. Not, you know, as far as like a Group M, but kind of a happy medium. We've been pushing and strongly recommending to a lot of our clients that, you know, that you have to take this approach. You have to let us take this approach. For the most part, it's gone pretty well, but it's still, I think there's still a lot of confusion, which just leads to way more time on the planning team, you know, spinning their wheels, talking to publishers when they can, you know, more so be focused on strategy and deliver for the client.
Yeah.
I think viewability is just a fascinating term, as we say here. The truth is that if we use different partners and different platforms, we just, maybe the same video asset with just tremendously different viewability.
Really?
It's very inconsistent. So one of the things that my hope is that through maturation that we get to more standards and frankly more, I hate to use the word transparency, but just something that gives us a little bit more ammunition to protect those buys for the clients. Because remember is that, you know, they're reading these blogs and trends too, and they're questioning, you know, the agency or our decision, saying, well, you know, if my viewability is X, you know, I read this blog that sucks. And well, yes, no, maybe, right? And so I think that part of it is that it goes back to the partnership in the ecosystem where we have to manage clients' expectations, the partners have to manage the agency's expectations, so that we do this correctly. Because I think that, I think all of our clients understand that this is still newish in many regards. However, it is an opportunity to lead them.
So it's interesting, the open source SDK initiative on the
Correct.
app side, because now that signal is the same methodology for all viewability vendors.
Yep.
Because there has been competitiveness between them where they wanted their metrics to look better for whoever it was, right? But now it levels that out, and it will give access even to smaller viewability vendors who didn't necessarily have access.
Exactly.
So very interesting, and now hopefully you can differentiate on much smarter intelligence. Right?
And I think that, again, is that hopefully for 2018, we're starting to pivot. Viewability is one metric,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But there's a whole world of additional opportunities that we think we can also gravitate to. And that'll be interesting to see how that goes forward.
And what do you think those next other most important metrics are that you'd like to see?
So, you know, I think taking just a brief step back, I think that the misconception our clients had, and I think the agencies many times perpetuate, is just take a video asset, whether it was a commercial or something, just say, you know what, we're just going to reskin it and throw it up there. And the reality is that it's a different level of engagement, it's a different opportunity, you've got bandwidth issues, you got all sorts of stuff to deal with. And we're really trying to lead with the clients saying, use this video asset correctly. You can do many creative things with it. You could actually, God forbid, be, you know, left and right brain with respect to this. And I think that at the end of the day, is we're trying to see is can we make a video actually impactful, right? Is there an opportunity that we can say it did something and not just we're blasting away at an audience? And our clients, and especially for 2018 planning, so much more scrutiny is really about, are you going to be able to make a business impact? Can you prove it? And so I think that is clearly where agencies and partners are going to succeed in the upcoming years. Say, I get it, video's cool, and we're going to do some good stuff. Is it impactful?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important point that we all together as agencies and partners need to figure out together.
Chris, what about metrics beyond viewability? Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's true. It's really taking a look at the format and applying the metrics that should be there. I think one of the things that we
But
do.
is video completion rate, you think one of those or not really? I mean, how do you link to business result? I mean, this is a
Yeah.
big challenge, you
Yeah.
know, like if it's
Yeah.
offline sales, it's hard to get to. If it's brand lift, is it through survey studies?
But
Like,
there are things you can do, sorry.
yeah.
Is that, and there are things you can
I'm
do.
just curious, 'cause
No,
it
the
is
things you can-
challenging.
I think that's the big question, is that if you can do something at the end of the video, learn more here, right? Or click here for, so there has to be an opportunity for us to make sure, or is there a card at the end of the screen that just says, exactly what that audience needs to do, right? And I think that we are trying to say, can we make this video ad contribute to something on the business side?
Okay, so Scott's bringing up a super good point, and I don't know how many people know this, but on the in-app video side mainly, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong from your ecosystem perspectives, the way a lot of app developers have incorporated video is it's full screen video interstitials that are kind of like television commercial breaks between content. Chris Denson was saying he'd seen them on Words with Friends in between the gameplay. But the way those experiences now are supported is to have a video play and then have an end card at the end of that, so that even if a consumer skips the video, they can still do something, whatever your goal is in that campaign beyond video view. Or if your goal is not even video completion rate, you can actually incorporate on a vertical experience both the call to action and the video, right? And what's been interesting from my perspective, I mean, I view this as a complete best practice, right? It's just an additional way to engage consumers. Like, why pass it up? You've paid for it. And what we see is on the performance advertising side, probably 100% of advertisers are using this end card experience. On the brand side, in the US, at least on Mobi, we have 60% of the campaigns that we're seeing use some type of end card. It may not be interactive, and we can talk about that. It could be better. It may just be a static with one call to action. But abroad, we see that only at 10% for the brands using this.
Yeah.
So anyway, very interesting point, I think, as a
Yeah.
potential best practice.
Well, I think the agencies, we are getting to that point too, and yet it's just a lot of education as well, and say, by the way, there's more, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that there's a connection with that video asset to something. And that's where clients agencies sometimes will flame out on that. But that, again, is that if they're best partners, and especially from the ad tech space, if you guys can provide that information to us and say, here's some really good examples of how to use this for impact, I think is smart. And that's where, this is where for 2018 is going to be huge for us.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's the,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
I
no.
mean, Chris, I was wondering from your, so we're kind of now in the talking about how do we get to better creative that really fits this mobile experience that's not television commercial 30-second, filmed like this, right? Because everyone's holding their phone like this, right? So how do we start to match that experience? And you're sitting and you're doing more and more video production, so I'd love to understand from your business, what are you seeing? Are people making creative that fits the devices? How's that changing?
Yeah, we've really taken that approach. I mean, for Las Vegas, if you ever heard the What Happens Here Stays Here campaign, I mean, that's done by us. And we are so extremely content focused right now, producing thousands of pieces of content, most of it video, to a lot of different segmented audience, whether you're a foodie, a shopper, a nightclub, or whatever it may be. And we're really working closely, the media team, with our social publishing team and with our creative team, having those conversations of, and educating them of, look, here's all the different opportunities that we have in media, and more importantly, here's how consumers are really using those platforms. So let's produce some creative that fits to each of those platforms. Don't give me our 30-second TV spot and chop it up into 10 different versions so I can put it on, a 6-second YouTube. Give me content that really kind of focuses on that. So we're doing that internally. We're doing it through publishers, and we're doing a ton of vertical video and really kind of embracing the environment and the consumer experience, and it's done wonders.
How much of the video you're running on mobile is vertical versus still landscape?
I'd say it's probably our fastest growing piece of video. I don't know what the exact
But it's
percentage.
probably a small
but
percent, but it's super fast growing.
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. on
Yeah,
our side.
we're seeing a ton of interest in personalized video as well. And we're seeing more and more clients start to develop the kind of stuff that you're talking about. I think there's a certain barrier to doing with video because not everybody is ambitious enough to go out and shoot a bunch of video, which is where that end card format can also be quite nice as it gives you the ability to personalize that end card. We're running these sort of things with dynamic offers in them, so you don't have to necessarily repurpose the whole video. You can have the call to action be specific to the user.
And it's a conversation with the client, who's so used to seeing a nice polished 30-second TV spot, and now you're saying, hey, let me go down to the strip with a GoPro and film some stuff. And throw it on one of our social channels. There was a learning curve there of getting people comfortable with doing that. But now that it's happened, they've fully embraced it.
What about the 6 seconds? So you brought up the 6 seconds. Like, are we seeing shorter, videos? Is it at that 15-second? Is it still at 30s? Like, where are people on duration?
They're apparently running 6 seconds for the NFL, I read the other day, on TV. So it's even made its way to TV. We have 6 seconds on YouTube, 6 seconds on Facebook. I think that, look, this is an ecosystem that's changing so fast that if there's anything that makes sense, it's experimentation. If we try the 6 seconds and we don't like it, we can go back to 15.
We try our best not to run anything longer than 15 seconds on digital video, with the exception of doing longer 2 and 3 minute kind of long form content. But outside of that, 15 is pretty much the max.
15 is the max, okay.
Yeah, we're the same. We see real drop-offs, anything beyond 15 seconds. And I think, and to the point, however, there's situations where you can make more 2-minute long-form content. And then we've even been testing, is there a 6-second tease that then can go to the longer form? And that's where you can start having fun with the medium, and trying to see if you can engage the audiences to take a step in the other direction as well.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that's where I would like to see lots more agencies and advertisers planning not on a campaign-by-campaign basis, but an overall strategy basis and saying, like, where do I want to be in 2 years, and what are all the things that I want to learn between now and then, and let's set up the test so that we're running campaign after campaign and learning these things and getting somewhere over time.
Test and learn,
Yeah.
So one more question, and then we'll open it up to the floor. What about programmatic? We run Mobi Exchange. We sell a lot of video on the programmatic side. Do you buy video programmatically? Are you embracing it? Do you see limits? Like, is it a good thing, bad thing? Kind of what's your perspective on the programmatic side?
Programmatic, it's at the end of the day, it's everyone's trying to reach a certain audience. Programmatic is one way to do it. Direct buys is another way. I think, to your point before about viewability and seeing much different numbers, I think there's almost no limit to the additional transparency we can add, because right now you're thinking about things like, is it skippable or not? Is it muted? Does it appear? Does it expand? One of the things about a VAS tag is it's very, very portable. And so it can end up in just about any kind of placement. We see that especially in Outstream. We are doing things, once again, to change the standards with OpenRTB 2.5 to make some of that surfaced. But I think that, we need as much information as we can get. And I say that the buy side needs as much information as they can get.
And I'd say the majority of video that we buy is done in-house through our programmatic team. 70%. And then within there, we're doing more and more private marketplace deals, but we still partner up with a lot of publishers for direct deals just to help us produce content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're about that way, about 70-80% programmatic, and then also do private opportunities as well. I really think that we all know that programmatic's really where this is all headed.
Okay.
We also know there have been some false steps going that way. And I think that our clients, are more than ever, they understand the value of programmatic. And I think that as video increases its opportunity to be programmatic, I think they actually feel comfortable with that. However, it is an opportunity for the industry, again, as an opportunity to make sure that they see the value of those buys, they see the value of the audience against those buys, and that there is, controls in place. I think that programmatic was really sort of a wild, wild west for many years. And now I think that we're moving to more of a steady state of where we need to go, and that will actually increase opportunity, I think, for the clients as well.
So we'll open it up to questions if people have questions for the panel.
This fine young man has a question. He came over to me.
Thanks for the young. Appreciate that. So, moving away from creative units, but the fraud you mentioned earlier on. So, aggregators, supply aggregators, will sit behind a DSP and buy from an SSP. So this is probably a question for you. They'll buy an ad opportunity, a video ad opportunity, and then they'll turn around and resell that as a supply opportunity back to that same SSP. And you get this loop going, right? And that creates a lot of fraudulent inventory. I used to work at a video advertising platform. We would have billions per day of ad calls that we felt were one ad unit being extrapolated like that.
Wow.
So what are you guys doing or have done to try and catch that and then cut all those billions of bad ad impressions out that really aren't even real impressions, right? It's just a multiplication factor.
And who's the question for me?
The SSP.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so first off, I will tell you that I'm on the in-app side of things, so it's a little bit different. Where I see the challenges from a validity of traffic perspective in my business is actually not as much on the exchange side of the world, so we can talk about why that is, but it's on actually the performance side of the business. So I do believe that the last click attribution model is a huge challenge for the industry. If you are paying publishers on a CTA, basically the goals of the campaign and the advertiser, it incentivizes them to do very bad things. That's my view, and we need to eliminate that business, which is mainly bought direct and not programmatic, actually. On the programmatic side of the fence, I think viewability, the reason we've really pushed to lead the industry around viewability and been the first to adopt this open source SDK, the first to offer completely across display and in-app video viewability. From the app standpoint, you actually have to have a relationship with the app developer that's not a tag-based or server-based. See, the browser side's quite different, right? It could just be a pretty simple tag anywhere being passed around. On the app side, I have to have a relationship with app developers where that app developer has taken my code and put it with their app, and the consumer has downloaded my code onto the device. So I'm well past just being a pixel on a page or being a tag on the page. I'm embedded in the content like a content server for that app developer. And that's how I get MRC accredited, I don't touch signals. It's that independent tech that provides them. And so this viewability push on the in-app side will do a huge one. I mean, because I compete against people that are clearly reselling traffic that they don't have as close of a relationship to, right? They're eighth in the waterfall and it's not filled. So it's not that it's fraudulent, it's just that I think we should be closer to that supply, close to that consumer, make sure we're doing the right things in terms of the ad formats and all of this. So our push has really been around viewability to try to force that to happen. And the more buyers say, hey, I won't spend unless this can be measured on viewability, the better it is for my life personally, right? Because we're kind of on the right side, but we're competing against people that may be willing to sell inventory much cheaper than I am, right? So that's a challenge on my side of the business.
Just to add on that from an agency side, I mean, if I were to fully believe every salesperson who knocked on my door, fraud and viewability isn't an issue for any of them. They're all 95% fraud-free and viewable.
That should be the lingo bingo.
So who's lying?
Yeah.
So I think having strong viewability metrics on any campaign that you're running is crucial.
Yeah, and I think the more we just force it, right, that, hey, the inventory without this is not going to get CPM money.
Yeah.
Now, I do think a lot of the fraud problems exists on the performance side.
Right.
And I think that that's doing a disservice as well. And I hope that advertising on that side starts to provide view through attribution. I don't even care what percent, 5%, whatever. But if we don't have a view back to impressions, then a single impression might house, it's ad stacking galore, right, with 10 ads in a single ad, and there wasn't really even an impression. So both viewability and then all models, whether you pay on CPC or CPA, should have a visibility to the impression. That's my general view of the best way to clean things up.
All right, we can go to the app for a question, if you don't mind. Do you see digital getting a seat at the table more frequently when initially ideating about a potential video asset?
Yes.
All right, next question. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, the answer is yes. And to qualify that is, I think that, to be candid, Facebook, I think, threw a lot of that opportunity on the table. That is now saying, you know what, not all of your users are on Facebook. Not all of your audiences and social channels. So how do we use this asset correctly deployed to audiences beyond the walled garden of Facebook or Google? And so no question the answer is yes. I think the qualifying statement as you work with agencies is how they're going to maneuver the asset against the audiences correctly, though.
Yeah, it's yes for us as well. I mean, and we've kind of created a pod structure, so whenever we're kicking off any client project, we have a lead from each department, whether it's PR, creative, media, whatever, and they kind of oversee the development of that project from start to finish, and they all are able to kind of give their input and then work with their teams to complete it.
All right, thank you guys. Round of applause for Ann and the Frisbees. They'll be performing later tonight on the golf course.